So, John, hopefully, the Team USA is going to keep us somewhat entertained. And like I said, maybe there'll be some early chemistry development. Obviously, the worst case scenario, nobody wants to hear anybody say this. We're going to say it anyway. The risk of injury, and it's probably why many of the stars have backed away from participating, not just this year, but in previous years. The risk of injury, especially as players also get older, becomes a major deterrent. It's the last thing the Celtics would need would be an injury to be incurred during the Olympic play. But I think at the same time, there's a healing process and an incorporating of Kemba Walker that could be going on here that could be far more valuable to the Celtics, and especially if they escape injury free.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's value in it. I mean, it really stinks to have all this time away from the team with such a bad, taste in everyone's mouth. And maybe what this team really needs is just to get out there and start competing, even if it's only the four of them. And of course, we don't know that all of them will make the team, but it seems pretty likely that at least Tatum and Kemba are going to make the team. And then
I would be surprised if Smart doesn't. If I was actually to put one of the two remaining players on the periphery, I'd actually say Jalen. And I think they'd love to have Jalen and his talent, but I think that just that dogged effort that Marcus Smart brings and on defense and willing to do the dirty work, not that Jalen isn't willing to play a role, because we saw that last year coming off the bench. He more than accepted that role. So I'm not really concerned about Jalen that way. But I just feel like Marcus Smart's probably going to bring something different to the team that the coach is really going to like and is going to consider invaluable. Will be awesome to see if he continues his hot three-point shooting, or at least his uptick in three-point shooting in Olympic ball.
Yeah, well, it's closer. It's a closer arc too, so that should help as well. But I don't know. I think there's probably value in Jalen. You've got PJ Tucker amongst this group right now, so I mean, there's it's definitely the I wouldn't say that this is the most talent that the U.S. could roll out in one. Not to say that PJ Tucker's a bad player, but he's just not on par with James Harden. But I think that could be a very interesting mix. I think it could be a very important piece. I think Jalen could benefit as well as Jason. I think both those guys really stand to benefit. I'm not sure Smart needs to learn about how to play in a different system, but I think it'd be great for both of those guys to experience something. My concern is that they'll like it too much and they might get eyes around for other places. To learn from Pop, it might make you think, oh, it's all like this if you go somewhere else in the NBA. Well, that's clearly not the case.
Well, the good news is the coach that we have here in Boston, Brad Stevens, probably the closest thing to Pop, and their relationship and their style to some degree and shared practices is fairly well documented. I wouldn't say we get an article every year, but about mid-tenure at this point for Brad Stevens, I think it was Bull Pet, might have been Mark Murphy, but had an interview with Pop and talked about how they do stay in touch and they steal from each other, and obviously all coaches steal from each other. And I think we had another article just the other day sort of mentioning that as a takeaway. It might have even been in the Keith. Actually, I think it was in the Keith Smith article, so maybe an early segue there, but we will be talking about that. But coaches always stealing from each other to some degree. But I think that Brad Stevens' style and what didn't really work with Kyrie, unfortunately, is also kind of what Popovich likes to do. I mean, if you look at the minutes played, that would be probably the only thing I'd say differentiates somebody like Brad from Pop, because he does. When Isaiah Thomas was in town, he played, a lot of minutes. And I think you and I talked about this on the last show. You're kind of expecting Kemba to play a lot of minutes. And I'm sort of hoping that we're going to manage those minutes a little bit better and maybe a little bit more in the Pop fashion.
Yeah, I think that's Jay King had a nice article in the Athletic today about how to break up minutes and how to make it work, and it's tough. It's really tough to try to figure out how you can fit everyone in. And right now, if you look at how the number of players and the number of spots, I mean, you're looking at, on average, what Jay had was really no one more than 32 minutes, and really all of Smart, Brown, Tatum, Hayward, and Kemba, all five of those guys right around 31, 32 minutes, 28, I think maybe. I mean, that's that's almost on that same level, I guess, of pop like, load management of yesteryear.